Hey guys, SK here, back with another Clash Royale video, and today we are joined by this lovely 8-bit remix of the Clash Royale menu theme, which I'm really a big fan of. But today we have some sad news. 3.0 Xbow Cycle has officially been nerfed once again. Now, it has been shown time and time again that Supercell does not care too much about this deck, as we have received nerf after nerf in the balance changes, so I can't say I'm too surprised. We did get the Archers and Ice Spirit buff, I will give them that, a couple of balance changes ago, but other than that, it's all been nerfs. We got Xbow reworked, which was actually just a straight up nerf, a year and a half ago. We got Tesla nerfed twice in a row. We got Log nerfed in the last balance changes. We got Knight nerfed, and now we have gotten the Fireball getting nerfed again. So this deck is in a very bad spot, as if it wasn't bad enough before the balances. Once again, we're getting hit with no buffs to compensate for this change, so it's very unfortunate. So today I'm going to be talking about my personal thoughts, not only on the Fireball nerf and 3.0 Xbow Cycle deck state in general, but also I'll be talking about my opinion on all of the balance changes as a whole. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I've talked about how I wanted to make a balance change wishlist video quite a few times, and I never really got around to it because I was caught up with some real life stuff. But now I guess it's finally the time. Also, I will be playing some live games with 3.0 Xbow Cycle later on, trying to test it out and see how it is after the nerf. Disclaimer, I have already tried the Fireball out quite a few times, and it is noticeably worse in some matchups, especially where the knockback is important. Obviously, in matchups where the knockback doesn't really matter, like against other Expo Mirror matchups, the change doesn't really matter at all, but it is still very much noticeable, especially against like Lumberloon Freeze, where I know some of you guys definitely have trouble against, so that just makes it worse. But yeah, I hope you guys are all doing well. I've personally had quite a busy day today. I went to the dentist for the first time in quite a while, so that was interesting. Also went shopping for some winter clothes because I'm going to university in a few weeks now. I'm going to be going to Canada, so it'll be pretty cold there. So obviously I need to get clothes like those, so that was pretty interesting. But I'm kind of tired now, but it's not too late in the day. Not like me a few months ago when I used to make videos. I would wait till like 12 midnight to make a video. And then edit it and just stay up and do all that stuff. It's still pretty early in the day compared to that, so we'll still be trying to record this video early enough. So yeah, let's talk about the balance changes. And so I've kind of arranged all of them here. I have a list, and what I've personally done is I've arranged them in what I feel like is the order of how impactful each change was. So by order of most impactful here to less impactful, and then we also do have another page, of course. So let's start out with Fireball, and let's talk about 3.0 Xbow Cycle for a bit. So as I've said, this deck is in a very bad spot. It has consistently been in a very bad spot, with the exception of the meta where Archers and Ice Spirit were buffed. Although the meta was still bad for the deck, it's just that these two cards being stronger was very helpful. But honestly, ever since the Xbow nerf, it wasn't too bad, since there were still other very strong cards in the deck, especially Fireball Log doing more damage than they do now. That was a while ago, but especially Log at least doing a lot more damage than it did now, and especially Tesla lasting 5 seconds longer than now, and having a faster hit speed. They nerfed its lifetime and hit speed, so it's received quite a lot of nerfs, and it's actually a very average mid-tier building in the game now. I feel like it's pretty much on par with Inferno Tower. I cannot see any reason why Tesla is better than Inferno Tower, because now the only buildings you see are either Inferno Tower or Cannon. Even in log bait decks, where they would usually switch between Tesla and Inferno Tower, now they switch between Cannon and Inferno Tower, and even decks like Electro Giant, heavier decks, have started running Cannon, because it's such a broken building. I really feel like it's overpowered. Definitely A tier at least, but maybe even an S tier card. For 3 Elixir, it does everything a Tesla can do, but better, considering its cost, except for air defense, and that doesn't matter too much because there are other very strong air cards in those Cannon decks, such as Archer Queen, for example. So about the deck itself, it's in a very bad spot, so I feel like this nerf is definitely noticeable. I'll also be talking about each of the nerfs and what they are, just in case you guys didn't know. I'll also be linking the balance change official blog post in the description as well, if you want to check that out for yourself. So Fireball received a 44% nerf, which is really huge. Got a nerf of its pushback, which isn't stated over here. It's kind of a hidden stat, but it went from pushing a card back by 1.8 tiles to pushing it back by 1 tile. That is a 44% change. That is huge, and I've actually lost lost a game against Lumberloon Freeze today because I did not expect Fireball to knock the balloon back so far, or so little at least. I thought it would be further, and I got a hit on my tower, and I pretty much lost because I couldn't really come back from that deficit, since my opponent played pretty well after that. So definitely a noticeable huge change. Mainly for me it would be Lumberloon and Balloon, because now you cannot actually counter a balloon with a Fireball most of the time. There's a very soft window, a 0.2 second window, where you have the capability of fireballing a balloon back, resetting its attack animation, and not taking any hits on your tower. And that is very hard to do, very technical, and not something I'd expect any of you guys or lower ladder players or more casual players. Not saying you guys are lower ladder or casual, but basically, unless you're like a pro or someone who's willing to practice this interaction many times. And by the way, I'm not even saying something like I'm super good at it, because I cannot do it. I don't know the window, I'm not familiar with it. So this is definitely a nerf that's going to affect majority of the player base with Fireball. And so I actually have the blog post here as well, and they have stated that it's a very popular spell that dominates its counterparts because of its instant damage and pushback ability, and with this nerf we want to reduce the versatility of the card and prompt players to other spell choices. Now, I feel like it's a valid point. It was a very versatile and popular card, but I still feel like this nerf was huge and it should have been toned down a bit. Another thing I want to talk about is how they didn't really listen to the community at all. They said they were in progress balance changes, and I actually announced in my Discord server, as well as many other big content creators announcing on Twitter or other social media platforms, asking for community feedback about the changes so that Supercell could take this into account, and literally nothing, no one's thoughts at all was taken into account. Absolutely nothing was changed from that, except for they added the Ram Rider buff on top of everything else. There was literally nothing else that was added, so that was very disappointing in my opinion. And I'm not trying to talk down on Supercell and say like, oh, you guys don't listen to the community at all, or you guys are terrible, but I feel like this was definitely a big missed opportunity. It was not a great showing for them, I feel like, to not really listen to anyone, especially pro players and content creators who definitely did have vocal feedback from their communities. So overall, Xbow as a whole is going to be in a lot of trouble. Definitely 3.0 Xbow Cycle is going to be terrible. I will still play it myself and still try and upload videos for you guys, because I know you guys love the deck. I personally love the deck, and it is the classic deck that is easy to upgrade and level up. But personally, I feel like Queen Bow, Cannon, Rocket versions of that will be way better. So just a bit unfortunate of a situation here. Next up, we have the Executioner. Projectile range buff from 6.5 tiles, 7.5 tiles. Actually a pretty big buff. It's not going to change too much because it doesn't make the card broken or anything, but it is going to have pretty much the same projectile range as Bowler now, I'm pretty sure. And Bowler, if you guys didn't know, is pretty annoying because sometimes people play it at the bridge or combine it with the tornado, and it can get many boulders on the tower for incidental chip damage. It's very annoying, and that actually happened to me earlier today. So this buff is actually pretty big, and I feel like XZ will be in a good spot now. It definitely does not need any more buffs. It's been buffed many times with HP, now projectile range. I feel like it should just be stopped, but it can definitely be used. I feel like it still wouldn't be a super strong card because there's cards like Archer Queen that just overshadow it, but it can definitely still be used, and people like Viper who play Hog, XZ NATO, who already did play Hog, will definitely be happy about this change. Next up, we have the Electro Giant. Reflect damage to crown towers, minus 33%. Pretty noticeable nerf, I feel like. As you can see, reflected damage and reflected tower damage are pretty distinctly different, and I feel like this will be pretty big because it'll obviously do less damage. 33% less reflect damage to towers now, so it should be less punishing when he gets onto the tower. I feel like it's not dead though, because I'll also be talking about a couple of missed opportunities, I feel like, or at least this one. I definitely feel like the mirror is overpowered and too strong, and they definitely missed out by not touching this card. They feel like it's been in a very solid and good state. They want to keep it that way, but it is literally creating the most toxic decks in the game, like Electro Giant, Rocket, Mirror Cycle, Log Bait, Rocket, Mirror Cycle, and just really annoying and silly decks like those, and making them viable. And I mean, sure, they are fun, they're a breath of fresh air, but they're also broken, especially Mirror combined with a champion. If you guys didn't know, let's say I play an E-Giant at the back, then I play a gold, they pressure opposite lane, I play a Golden Knight on defense. You can't mirror a champion, because obviously you can only play one champion at a time. So you can actually still mirror what you played before, which is the E-Giant, which is a super stupid and broken mechanic that I really feel like should be touched. At least that should be fixed with the mirror. It's really ridiculous. It's really overpowered and unfair, I feel like. So I would have at least loved to see that, so I'm pretty disappointed mirror didn't get a touch. But E-Giant, will not be that good anymore, but I feel like it'll still be viable, especially with the mirror, just not as dominant as it has been. Next up we have the Mega Knight. Faster jump delay, which means it jumps quicker between each of its targets, and that speed went from 1.1 seconds down to 0.9 seconds, so roughly a 20% buff. I feel like this is definitely deserved. You guys might disagree with me, but Mega Knight is not an overpowered card by any means, in my opinion. There are many counters to it. Even with 3.0 Xbow Cycle, we have quite a few options, mainly just the Knight. You can play a Knight in the middle. Both towers will target the Mega Knight. It'll actually get solo 1v1 by the Knight alone, so very nice interaction there. Also, cards like Valkyrie, Mighty Miner, all can take out the Mega Knight very easily. Mini P.E.K.K.A. So I feel like you just have to have a decent option. Obviously, if you're playing like Barbs, Wizard, All Swarm, then you are going to get in trouble, but as long as you don't clump everything up and spam, you should be fine. Mega Knight does do a good job at punishing those, but just be wary of how you're playing your troops. Should be okay. I feel like this nerf is good. This buff, rather. They didn't want to buff Mega Knight's damage because they felt like that was a nerf, I think, last time. They nerfed spawn damage, so now it doesn't one-shot stuff like Wizard after jumping on it with its attack. So I feel like if they want that to be the case, then sure, it's still going to be that way. It will not one-shot a Wizard after jumping. That damage is still reduced, but now it'll just spend less time jumping between targets, so I feel like that's a decent enough buff for it. Next up, we have the Elixir Golem. This is actually really interesting. I'm interested to know what you guys think about this, because they label this as a rework. Basically now, every single Elixir blob does give Elixir. The big blob gives 1 Elixir, the 2 mini blobs give 0.5 Elixir each, and the 4 baby blobs give 0.5 Elixir each, so for a total of 1, 1, and 2 Elixir. So it's still a total of 4 Elixir, but you get it sooner. And obviously this is a nerf, so they did also buff it. 9% HP buff to the big golem, and 6% HP buff to the 2 second stage golemites. And I feel like this is, I mean, I don't know how I feel personally. I was talking to Zodiac, one of the best E-Golem players, who is a German player, and I think he is anyway, and I believe he told me that he thinks this is going to be quite a big buff to E-Golem. He thinks it'll be back in the meta and pretty useful, but I've recently seen people talking on Twitter and saying how it's actually a nerf, because getting the Elixir back so much sooner is actually pretty noticeable as well, and does make it very easy to defend. So people are saying it's a net nerf, but Supercell has stated that they are work in progress going to be planning to buff other cards, such as the Battle Healer, other E-Golem cards that are super weak, so I'm personally not looking forward to that. I feel like healing is a very unhealthy mechanic for the game, but we will see. Maybe this rework could be slightly a net nerf, but that'll mean that they can justify buffing something like the Battle Healer even more in the future. But let me know, do you guys think this is a net nerf or a buff? Because personally, I'm interested to know. I feel like it's a wash at best, but maybe a slight nerf overall, because again, the HP nerf isn't too big, HP buff rather isn't too big, and it is definitely noticeable to get the Elixir sooner. Next up we have the Golden Knight, and this is one that is definitely welcome, but I'm still kind of disappointed because it got a 10% HP nerf, just flat out, and let me look at their reasoning for it. Actually, I haven't talked about their reasoning for other cards. Mega Knight, they said, okay, I'll just talk about it, the ones I missed. Mega Knight, they said his performance dropped too much, and they do agree with their call of decreasing the initial spawn damage, so they're making it more difficult to kite him with cheap troops, which is fair enough. Executioner, they said, has one of the worst win rates in the game, so they just want its axe to be buffed a bit. Electro Giant, they said it's been a bit too powerful, especially in combination with the mirror, and they are happy with the mirror finding its spot in the meta, but E-Giant needs to be toned down. I personally disagree with that. I feel like both of them need to be toned down, but sure. Mega Knight already talked about. E-Golem, they said the goal is to untangle the E-Golem, Battle Healer, E-Drag, Rage Pack, and make them all viable outside of this combination. So it looks like they are trying to buff maybe all of those cards, maybe buff Rage and E-Drag and Battle Healer in the future, it looks like. But we'll see, because if they do that, this combo will just get stronger. But they did want to make it easier to get Elixir back. Golden Knight, they said the arena's favorite golden boy, personally not my favorite golden boy, my most disliked golden boy, but they said the arena's favorite golden boy is a bit too good in everything. A nerf to its hit points will make him less tanky and easier to counter. I agree and disagree. It will be easier to take out, and I have noticed that. I played against a few Golden Knight players, but it's still impossible to counter its dash. It's still a broken dash, especially when combined with a tornado. You cannot stop it, and it is just broken and ridiculous. I feel like that definitely needs a nerf, whether it be the damage or the tile range. They did say that after they nerfed the tile range last time, it was a dead card. They don't want that to happen again, so I mean, fair enough, I guess, but it is still a very broken card when the range is the way it is right now, especially with tornadoes. So I personally feel like this nerf will not do too much. It'll still be a very broken and overpowered card. But let me know what you guys think as well. I guess I'm also kind of biased because this does hard counter the living hell out of 3.0 Xbow Cycle and other Xbow decks that I play, but let me know. Next up is the Fire Spirit, which is definitely a deserved nerf. I feel like this was good. 9% damage nerf. So now, you know, people always said, oh, it's 1 elixir, and it does more damage than a fireball to the tower. And even I said that. But now, it does exactly the same damage as a fireball to the tower. It does 274 damage, and it will still kill goblins. Let's see what they said about this. Slight nerf to its damage was necessary because it's hands down the best spirit right now. Understandable. But it'll still kill goblins. Sorry, goblins. So that is good, but one thing they didn't mention that people figured out, it does not kill lava pups now, and that is actually pretty huge, because a lot of the Fire Spirit decks, like Logbait Mighty Miner and Hog Rider Earthquake, relied big time on the Fire Spirit against Lava Hound, because you only have one Queen or one Rocket in those decks and one Mighty Miner ability, so having a card like the Fire Spirit to take out most of the pups is very important, and that'll be a big change now. Big nerf, they might possibly switch to another spirit as well, but overall I feel like a very good change, very much necessary and overdue. Next up, very interesting, we have the Ice Golem, which is a 0.5 second Frost Nova Death Slow effect buff. So this is actually a 50% buff, believe it or not, because its old Frost Nova used to do a 1 second slow, I believe. Now it does 1.5 seconds, so that's actually 50%, pretty big. And they say the coolest golem is not doing bad, but he's rarely used outside of the classic 2.6 deck. We hope this small buff will make him a more viable choice in other deck compositions to help him find another purpose in life rather than being pushed by a Hog Rider. So I mean, he is vaguely used in other decks. For example, Three Musketeers sometimes uses him, but that's about it. Actually, I can't really mention many other decks. Xbow has not used Ice Golem in over a year. It has always switched to either Valkyrie or Cannon, or rather Knight right now. Mainly Knight, but also sometimes Valkyrie, when it used to be 2.9 with the Ice Golem. So definitely a good buff. I feel like it's fair, but I also personally dislike 2.6, so I am not the happiest about 2.6 getting a buff. But again, that might just be my Xbow bias, because that is a very frustrating matchup to play on Xbow side. But overall, definitely a nice buff. Hopefully we can see it used in a few other decks, because it is quite a cool card and very fun to use. Next up, we have 3 cards that were not mentioned because I didn't have space for them in that page, but we do have the Skeleton King. And maybe this one should be higher on the list, actually, because it is kind of slightly big, but not too big. Soul Summoning ability, max skeletons count from 20 to 16. The Undead King didn't really decide to chill out after its last nerf. I don't even remember what its last nerf was, honestly, because, oh yeah, it was from 20 to 18. That was nothing. So they're reducing his maximum collected souls again, effectively for a net minus 4 souls from its original state. Still, I feel like a very strong card, very niche though, or not very niche, but in its own niche. So you're going to be using Golden Knight for its own purposes. You're going to be using Skeleton King for its own purposes. They both fit in different decks, but I feel like they're both still super good, and champions are overall still overpowered for sure. So definitely a good nerf, or a good thing that it was nerfed, but I'm not sure if it was good enough. It might still be very overpowered. We'll have to see if it has to get touched again. Next idea I might have for this is maybe nerfing its ability radius by a bit, because it is huge right now, and pretty good. Okay, software update. I'll do that later. Next up, we have the Prince and Ram Rider. They actually received the same buff, so I guess I'll talk about them together. They received a increase in their charging state, or rather a decrease in the requirement to charge, meaning that instead of being a 3.5 tile requirement, it goes to 3 tile. So both of them will start charging a bit quicker, and let's see what Supercell decided to say about that, because I'm actually kind of curious about Prince. The Prince has been struggling a bit lately. We gave extra carrots to its pony, and he will now enter its charging state quicker than before. Ram Rider, since her last nerf in April, she ended up in a very weak spot. We're giving her the same small buff as the Prince, but no carrots because the Ram is not a fan. Pretty funny flavor text, but overall, Ramrunner I feel like deserved the buff. It's not a bad card by any means, but it has been very weak ever since that nerf, and there wasn't much reason to use her. Now, hopefully, we will see some Ramrider decks back. Maybe Mega Knight Ramrider making a comeback, since both of them were buffed. That would be kind of interesting to see. Prince, I honestly have no idea because I feel like it's a pretty strong card, just not too great in the meta because it is a very Goblin Drill heavy meta, and also Swarm with Skeleton King, it's bad against those, but it is very strong against other decks, so I feel like maybe not a necessary buff. Not sure, but it's kind of interesting, I guess they just decided to do this. But the one issue with buffing or nerfing stuff based on the meta, which they definitely did for the Prince, right? They said it was not the greatest meta for the Prince. One thing about that is if the meta is weird for the card, but the meta changes, the card might be much better after the meta changes, and then buffing it on top of that might push it over the top. But this isn't a huge buff either, it's just a 0.5 tile charging buff, so it shouldn't be that huge, but still interesting to see the Prince buff. I personally disagree with Prince getting a buff, but I definitely like Ramrider getting a buff. So lastly, another two cards that I feel like were definitely missed opportunities: the Goblin Drill and the Giant Skeleton. I feel like both these cards are overpowered as hell, and especially Goblin Drill is such a broken card. I know they say that it's not that good on mid ladder, but at top ladder it's pretty much everywhere and very overpowered, and they claim that it's because of skill required to play it, that's why it's only seen at top ladder, but I don't see where the skill is here, like where it lies, because you just go Goblin Drill wall breakers, you can literally do that first play, you can't get punished most of the time. You have the Skeleton King in the deck these days. Asaph, actually one of my friends and a very talented player, not taking anything away from him. He played very well and is very talented for sure, but he did finish number 1 with Goblin Drill, and it was actually a Drill Skeleton King Inferno Tower deck. And I believe there were definitely many other Drill players up here. By the way, small side note, Titan finished number 12 in the world with 3.0 Xbow Cycle last season. Absolutely insane, considering how bad the deck was in the meta, and I've just been talking about it, how bad it was at the start of this video, and somehow he finished up there. I have no idea how. I wish I could have seen it. I do have him on my friends list, but I didn't get to see him play, unfortunately. And sadly the replays were also taken away because maintenance happened, but still very impressive achievement. Congrats to him. Amazing, considering he used 3.0 Xbow Cycle and not even Archer Queen or any champions for that matter. But yeah, Drill is broken, I feel like, and definitely should get a nerf. One of my biggest issues with the card is the fact that it has a glitch, kind of, where there's this thing called True Red and True Blue in the game, and I don't know how exactly to describe it because I don't understand it 100%, but basically you're assigned either True Red or True Blue, each player at the start of the match, and depending on what that is, the Drill, when placed in a certain spot, will either hit the tower or it'll hit a troop if you play a troop card. So let's say you play the Drill in the corner, right corner on top of a tower. You play a Knight usually on the right of that side of the Drill to catch it, but half the time, depending on whether you're True Red or True Blue, it'll hit the Knight. The other half of the time, it'll still hit the tower, even when you play a Knight or Ice Spirit or anything. So I feel like that's a really stupid and overpowered part of the Drill where it's just luck based, like it just hits tower no matter what. It's overpowered, it's unfair, and I would love to see at least that being taken out because I feel like that's a bit silly. Not sure if you guys got it from my explanation, but if you've encountered it, you'd know what I mean. It's basically just RNG when it comes down to it, and it's not really healthy, I feel like. But also just a really overpowered card, synergizing super well with other broken cards, which brings me to the Giant Skeleton. I feel like this card did deserve a buff when they nerfed its Death Bomb. It was really bad, but now it's super strong, and I feel like it just has too much HP or does too much damage. I feel like one of those should be fixed because they did buff both its HP and its damage, I believe, in the last balance update, both by like 10 or 11% or something like that. And I feel like that was a bit much because now it's very popular. It's used in Royal Giant decks, it's used in Drill decks especially. There's this one really overpowered Goblin Drill deck, I'm sure you guys know it. It's the Giant Skeleton Golden Knight Magic Archer Drill deck that doesn't even need a big spell because you can Giant Skeleton counter everything on defense. You can get Magic Archer snipes on offense, and overall it's just a very overpowered card. I would love to have seen both these two cards getting nerfed. I feel like that those were definitely missed opportunities, and I'm really surprised that they managed to nerf Fireball over more problematic cards like these, at least in my opinion. But that's pretty much going to round up the balance changes, guys, and my discussion of them. So let me know what you guys think of these changes in the comments below, what really stood out to you, what you'd like, what you dislike. Again, I do think they made some good steps. MK I feel like was good, Golden Knight, Fire Spirit, Ice Golem were all good. XEM on the fence, I guess, a little bit, but I feel like it was kind of weak, so I guess it deserved it, but now I feel like they should stop with it. Ram Rider I also like, Skelly King I like, but I think it wasn't enough, and Prince I don't really like, but it's not that huge, so it shouldn't be that bad. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of the balance changes, and hopefully you guys enjoyed kind of a discussion, I guess just giving my thoughts. I have wanted to make one for a while, but just got around to it now. But still, we are in for a new meta, and the 20-win challenge is in a couple of days, which I will obviously be trying to do. And I'm honestly kind of surprised I'm saying this, but I'm not 100% sure I can even do it with 3.0 Xbow Cycle, because it is a very weak deck right now, and I would love to do it because I've done it with 3.0 for the last two times I won it in a row. Last year I uploaded a video, I won it with 3.0. In 2019 I won it with 2.9 with the Ice Golem, so very classic. And then in 2020 I got 18 wins in the No Tilt challenge with 3.0. Fortunately didn't get 20, but obviously I've always used 3.0, so it would kind of suck if it's that weak to the point where it's not really viable, and I feel like it definitely isn't, but hopefully I can still do okay. Hopefully others can do okay and we can still use it. But yeah, now we're going to be playing some ladder with 3.0 Xbow Cycle. And I just set up another recording because I want to include the tap indicator for you guys, since I know I asked that question a while ago and people said they liked it. So I had to change that setting in my screen recorder. But we are going to be trying out 3.0 Xbow Cycle. It is, I feel like, in a much worse spot, mainly because of the meta, but also the Fireball nerf did not help anything. And other problematic cards, like the Golden Knight not getting nerfed enough, like the Giant Skeleton and Drill not getting nerfed enough, both of which are hard. Usually whatever deck runs those cards are hard matchups for Xbow, especially Drill I feel like is really hard. So I feel like we are going to be in for a tough meta ahead of us, guys, but hang in there because hopefully we can get some love to our deck soon. But I don't know at this point, like, they are constantly nerfing our stuff. I feel like Tesla definitely deserves a buff, Knight could use a buff, and Xbow deserves one, but they'll never do it because they don't like Xbow, and people on the balance content creator team don't really like Xbow either, unfortunately, which I feel like isn't that great either, because like just because you dislike or like a card doesn't mean it shouldn't get balanced. Like, for example, just because people might like playing for example the Golden Knight, people say it's fun, doesn't mean it shouldn't have gotten nerfed because it was such an overpowered card. Same reasoning I feel like goes for Xbow. People say, oh, no one likes to play against it, so toxic, but it is a very weak card right now and is pretty much getting carried by other cards. And that, actually, I want to talk about that before we get into the matches. I feel like this deck has always, ever since Xbow was nerfed, it's always kind of been playing off the merits of other really strong cards like Knight, like Tesla, like Fireball, like Log, and Skeletons. And I mean, Tesla was such a strong card, now it was nerfed to the ground. Knight was really strong, now it was nerfed quite a lot. Log was and Fireball are both really good, now both those have been nerfed as well. I feel like the deck has always only been able to have success because all these support cards are very nice as well, not because of Xbow. But now all the support cards are getting nerfed as well. It really does suck to see, and I hope we can see some changes for our deck soon, but I really don't know. But we're going to be playing some games on ladder, maybe 3 or 4 games. We'll see how it goes. Going to look for the first match, though, as we find it against what looks to be a Russian player, and he is a 20-game winner, so he should be a pretty decent player here. Give him the good luck. And I'm going to leak a bit because in case he's playing like log bait or something, I don't necessarily just want to cycle my log, but it looks like he is leaking. By the way, guys, I do have to say, this new arena I feel like is amazing. I really like it, and I talked about it before. I love, you know, 8-bit retro themes and games. Goes for Valkyrie. I guess he actually messed up the Valkyrie. I guess I will go Archer same lane though, just to find out what he has, if he has like a spell for them or anything. I will also protect them with the Knight. And let's see how he wants to respond. It goes for the Baby Dragon, so this could be Splash Yard. I'm going to bet that it isn't going to go for a Tesla like this. If it's not, okay, looks like it's going to be Graveyard Freeze then, I think. Yeah, okay, this is actually not that good. I'm going to try and kite this Baby Dragon opposite lane with my Skeletons, and then I think that was a pretty good defense. Now, we have to watch out if he freezes, though, because that'll be pretty bad. Looks like he doesn't. And now he doesn't have Valk or Bowler in hand. He went Valk, Baby Dragon, Bowler, graveyard freeze. Okay, I think he is actually back to Valk, but okay, it looks like he predicted my Xbow with the eye dragon. I was gonna say he does have eye dragon in this deck, which I know, so can't really afford to Xbow right away, but now that he just wasted it and I have a free counter push off the archers, I will definitely go for an Xbow. And wow, okay, I was giving him praise for being a 20-win player, but looks like he does not know his kiting that well, and I would really want to go for a knight to protect against the Valkyrie, but I don't think I can because I need the baby dragon to cross the bridge, so I can also get targeted. So I kind of made a sacrifice there. Didn't want to overcommit with the knight at the bridge because I wanted the baby dragon to be able to be taken out on my side as well. That is going to be a very nice connection though, and my opponent was just very aggressive. So this is one matchup where Fireball doesn't matter too much, I feel like. Obviously it can help against the dragons. Oh, another big matchup I forgot to mention is going to be Lava deck. So he goes for a bowler. I think he's not back to Valkyrie because, yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, okay, nice. Pretty much just because I was counting, but I'm glad he wasn't. We get another really nice connection. Now we have to watch out for this graveyard, though. And so, against any graveyard push, what you want to do when they freeze is you want to go for a very nice log. And just like that, you can see that I clupped many skeletons with my log. And just like that, I was able to defend that very nicely. Going to go for a Tesla to protect my bowler, or protect my archers against the bowler. Unfortunately, it does fail. And that's exactly what I was talking about, by the way, the Executioner. If an Exy is like over here and it hits this way, it'll also hit the tower. And that's going to be kind of an annoying interaction, actually. But going to try and fireball everything here. And just like that, you can see how little the pushback was. It was definitely not very much at all. Going to Ice Spirit and going to Skeletons as well. Don't want the Inferno Dragon to sizzle onto my tower. And that was actually a pretty clean defense, all things considered. But yeah, you can definitely see the Fireball nerf just with that interaction alone. And it does kind of suck. But not much we can do about it, of course. I think I do want to Fireball because I do want to start spell cycling. Oh, I would have loved to hit the Inferno Dragon as well. Didn't know he would give me that value. But I'll just go for a Tesla. He's probably going to set up another push because that's what he's been doing. I'll try and protect my Tesla with this knight. Looks like he saved up for the graveyard, so he has enough for a freeze. Once he freezes, I will again actually just pre-log getting ready for the freeze, and I will just again fireball these dragons back. Let's also get a nice Ice Spirit on them. And just like that, we're defending pretty perfectly. Baby Dragon doesn't even get a hit. And just like that, we are in a very nice position. So this has been a pretty nice game. This is one matchup where it's definitely still Xbow's matchup. Again, I feel like the Fireball nerf will mainly only affect Lava Hound, Balloon, and Archer Queen, because now I don't actually think you can. I'm not sure if it does change the Archer Queen interaction. I'm going to Fireball that Bowler, by the way, just because, again, I do want tower damage, and he is kind of giving it. And he's going to go with the bridge. I'm going to bridge block this time. Yep, so this is a nice play I like to make, especially when it's towards the end of the game, as he does freeze my archers off again, so going to get a nice log down again. If they are going for a graveyard push, you can block the tank at the bridge. Now we just need 2 fireballs, so we are just going to try and cycle very quickly. We are now 1 card away from a fireball, so that's going to be GG. Very nice first win against Graveyard Freeze, so I feel like that matchup didn't change too much, but you guys could definitely see how big the Fireball nerf was, or rather how impactful it was against those dragons, because it didn't really push them back much. And that's why I feel like against Lumberloon especially, it'll be bad, because not only does it not have much effect against Balloon now, if you want to Fireball back like a Lumberloon push, it won't knock either of them as far back, so that's definitely going to be noticeable. But let's get to the next match. That was still a pretty nice win overall. And yeah, other matchups I feel like it won't really change. Log bait, I don't think you ever really want to fireball something and knock it back in that matchup. Most stuff you fireball just gets taken out, like the princess. And okay, Sparky comes down. I guess let's fireball. I'm kind of not sure if I do want to take that fireball, but Xbow wasn't in hand, so I guess I will. And now that I did spend that fireball, I can't afford to defensive Xbow. I will just go for a defensive Tesla instead. And he's probably going to go for a giant or a goblin giant in front. Okay, he actually goes for a wizard. I'm going to log this back, which does let me cycle back to my knight. And I feel like that was good. He spent 11. I spent 3 with the knight, 4 with the Tesla, 4 with the fireball. I spent 11 as well, so that was pretty much an even trade. But he's actually going in right now, so we're going to have to cycle back to our knight, I feel like, for this wizard. So let's take a log to cycle back to our knight. And just like that, we did defend pretty well, actually. We also have a nice little lead in terms of tower damage, because we did get some fireball value on that Sparky the first time. And I'm not actually sure, I don't think I fireballed the tower twice, so I'm not sure where the other fireball, the other damage came from, because log doesn't do that much anymore, I know that for a fact. But we'll just go archers for the E-Wiz, and this looks like it's going to be a giant Sparky deck. Gonna go Ice Spirit just to pressure, because I do have 2 archers counter pushing, and I also want to find out if he has any spells, and looks like he doesn't have any spells. So this looks like it's going to be the 4.6 giant Sparky Rage deck, although he does have the mirror in here, so he did take a card out for the mirror rather. I'm just going to set up with a Tesla. Okay, E-Giant, interesting. This is actually not that good, because now this is going to be actually pretty bad. E-Giant Nerf, I don't think we'll actually see it in this situation. He might Tornado the archers in, which would be a pretty decent play, yeah. Gonna actually log, because I do also need to cycle back to something else, like my skeletons. And then after the Sparky hits, gonna go for my knight. Notice how I didn't go for the knight before, because if I did, I would have taken I would probably lost, because I would have gotten destroyed by the Sparky. Would have taken out the knight, splashing both the skeleton and the knight. That's just a little micro thing there. I guess I'll just Tesla. If I was optimal, I probably could have fireballed the wizard off in time, but I was not really optimal, unfortunately. And this time I am going to fireball the Sparky again. So in this situation, you can actually double fireball Sparkies. Okay, never mind. I'm just going to defensive Xbow, because I don't want to overcommit on this side if he's not even going to go in there. Let's see if he does commit to that side, though. And he does not. He just lets Sparky die. So that's totally fine. Level 16 Sparky doesn't matter too much. I think the one thing it does change, though, it is going to one-shot my knight, so I have to be careful of that. Let's just go for a knight now, I guess. And he actually has a lightning in this deck. Wow. Let's log this back, and I think just surrounding with skeleton should be fine. He just used his E-Giant, so I think I'm going to go in. Oh my god, please don't get a hit, Sparky. And it does get a hit. Wow, that is so much damage. But I think I might win here, because the Sparky will not splash my archers, and yeah, that's going to be pretty much on tower. Yeah, Dark Prince kind of working in the favor of myself and not my opponent there. So really nice connection there. He does go for a tornado. I'm going to go for an Xbow, because I feel like he's going to be low in elixir after that tornado. Also going to go knight, and he just barely looks like had enough elixir for the E-Giant there, but that's okay. I think I can actually just defend this one without even going for a Tesla. And let's see, he might not even get any damage. Yeah, he didn't get any damage. Okay, I'm going to have to go for an anti-lightning Tesla here, because I do not want him getting lightning value on my tower. But he might still Tesla lightning off my archer, or my Tesla. Anyways, he does not, which I'm definitely happy about. Gonna log this back. Actually gonna Ice Spirit too, because I don't want to mess around with a level 16 E-Giant. And then I think this should defend with archers, yeah. And we're going to go for an Xbow. We want to pressure, because we don't want to let him just kind of get what he wants. Going to go for a knight as well, and that's going to be game, because he does not have a reset other than the E-Wiz, which he will not have enough elixir for in time. So that was a very interesting matchup. That is one where fireball does not matter at all in terms of the nerf. So I'm grateful, again, that there are some matchups where the change doesn't affect too much, namely stuff like this, where, you know, what in this deck can get knocked back? Only E-Wiz and Wizard. Dark Prince is not going to knock back by Fireball. E-Giant doesn't, Sparky doesn't, and you're not going to be fireballing something like an E-Giant or Dark Prince anyways. So, you know, heavy beatdown matchups like this won't change too much, although on the note of beatdown, I just realized Golem will probably get worse for Xbow, because now you can't really get as much fireball value on defense, because you can, but it just won't get as much value because it knocks stuff back less. And I remember, like, many years ago, like 3 years ago, I made a video on 2.9 against Golem. It was like a matchup guide kind of thing, and I gave some tips for everyone in the description. I remember a big thing I talked about was getting fireball value on defense, because you definitely do want to be able to wait for the golem to pop and then fireball the golemites plus any support. I feel like that's a very huge interaction. That'll definitely get changed now that you can't fireball as much. So I feel like, you know, fireballing something like a Night Witch, a Baby Dragon, a Mega Minion, a Lumberjack in golem decks, that'll all be kind of worse. But yeah, let's go for one more and see what we go up against. Hopefully Lumberloon, I guess, because I do want to show how different it is. But, okay, found it against Luke's. Let's just go for skeletons. And he gives good luck. Looks like he might be playing a beatdown deck. Because, okay, never mind, he plays skeletons. But not sure what he was leaking then if he's playing a cycle deck. I will go for my split archers here. And he's angry, so maybe he doesn't want to go up in this matchup. But I'm going to go for an Xbow. He does miss the Xbow with the log, so I think I will also protect. He does have a rocket and a knight. Okay, so skeletons, log, knight, rocket. I feel like this is going to be Xbow Queen Bow with the cannon and archer queen. And if it is, I feel like it's going to be a pretty bad matchup because obviously he does have the queen and a pretty fast cycle with the rocket, so we will just be able to rocket every single Xbow and kind of put us in a lot of trouble. But let's see. Okay, Ice Wizard, so it is going to be Ice Bow then. The reason I said Queen Bow is because you never really see Ice Bow with Knight these days. It's usually played with Valkyrie, so interesting. But we did actually just outcycle his rocket, so I'm going to go for an Xbow and Tesla at the bridge here. Pretty aggressive, yep, because he goes for a Tesla log. I feel like he lost now because he's at like 0 elixir. He just went for a Tesla log and skeletons. Yeah, he's definitely at 0 after the Ice Whiz, so I'm just going to log that off, and hopefully we win. Yeah, it looks like we won, because he's going to have to tornado this, which he definitely doesn't want to do. And then I can pressure with an Ice Spirit at the bridge, and he gives a good game. He kind of knows it as well. So that's going to be really nice. So basically just cycle counting. I'm actually going to go for an Xbow just to try and bait out a rocket here, because I do want him to rocket, because actually Xbow does get like 3 ticks of damage. Yeah, looks like he had to rocket, so we get about 300 or 400 damage there. So again, just kind of knowing his cycle and elixir, he kind of had to rocket there, because if he went for an Xbow, I think he would have lost again. But we are now set up in a perfect position, and I feel like we can't really lose from here unless I choke big time and he outplays me with a tornado or something, but I don't think that's going to happen. So he goes for a defensive Xbow. I will just fireball that, honestly. Don't really need to mess around. And then after fireballing, I usually do like to go for a Knight in the back to set up for a push, and I can also get back to a second Knight since I cycled it very early in the sequence. Goes for a Tesla. I think I'll just Skelly's log on that. And I might actually just Xbow here because I don't want him to get any ideas of playing defensive and rocketing my tower. So I do kind of want to just force out the rocket on offense if I can. And it looks like he's actually trying to defend this without going for a rocket. So I'm definitely going to pressure, and I'm actually going to cycle back to another Xbow in the left, because it looks like he's kind of struggling to defend this Xbow on the right. Now he does go for the rocket, but we do also get some nice damage on the right. So we are actually winning in both lanes right now, and we do actually have the option of going in either lane, which is pretty nice. And so this is another matchup where he does actually try and get that off, but we do defend. And I think we are just going to take... Okay, I just missed the fireball on the Xbow. That's pretty bad, but I'm back to archers in time, thankfully. But that was almost a choke, since I did miss the fireball. We're going to have to get ready, yeah, for the next Xbow. Going to go Tesla Knight. Looks like he was not really prepared for that. Didn't block the Tesla. So that should pretty much seal it. I'm going to go for an Xbow because he has to rocket this. He has no choice, because he goes for a predictive Tesla, which is even worse. I'm actually going to get a nice fireball on the Knight. And there, again, you can see the Knight just barely moved with that fireball. It didn't really change anything. So that kind of sucks. But I was going to say, I feel like the one thing that'll get changed, he's going to try and go for another tornado, I feel like. So he does actually, okay, he does actually get it off. Wow. But we're going to go for a fireball log, and we shouldn't take too much damage. I mean, we are going to take some damage, but it shouldn't be enough to make a huge difference, and we're going to try and pressure here. It does actually end up getting quite a lot of damage. We're going to go for a fireball on the Tesla last second, and then we are going to have to pressure here. We actually might have choked, honestly. Hopefully not, but we'll see. And I think he might Tesla predict, so I'm going to go for skeletons very quickly. And he should go for Tesla, I feel like. Goes for a Knight. I'm actually going to fireball the Knight, because I do need tower damage. I need as much damage as I can get. And we're going to go for archers as well as a log on both the Xbow. And he actually does get a rocket off, so we're going to have to go for a fireball. But our Xbow is alive with some HP, so I feel like as long as he doesn't get another rocket off, we should be fine. The question is, though, is he back to a rocket? I think hopefully he's one off. Okay, he does get a rocket down, and unfortunately, guys, we did choke that one away. That's definitely on me. That's going to be GG. I'll give him the good game. He played well. He did outplay me a little bit there with that Triggy Tornado. So basically the only counterplay against that is to play your Knight really high, and I thought I did play it high enough, but I guess I didn't, so bit unfortunate there. But also I did mess up with that fireball on the right Xbow where I just missed it completely, and I was forced to overcommit really hard, so that was kind of unfortunate there. But let's go for one more, because I don't want to end on a loss. And we definitely were winning. We punished him really well in single elixir, so we had a really nice situation. I just kind of messed up, which is again on me, but also well played to him. But let's just go for an Ice Bird at the bridge. And this person is going to have a pretty nice global tournament finish. I think it was like top 400 or so, so should be a pretty solid player. I am getting the Wi-Fi symbol, unfortunately. And wow, that actually really went against our favor here with that interaction. I'm going to go for an Xbow. Don't know why I'm getting the Wi-Fi symbol, because I'm still able to play fine, but goes for a hog. I think I will go for a log to retarget the hog. Yeah, or not retarget, but push it away. I'm going to try and protect this Xbow as well, because it looks like it is going to be kind of an annoying mirror deck. I really don't know why I have that Wi-Fi symbol still, but I'm going to go for a knight up high, because again, I don't want this Exy to get any damage on my tower, and I also don't want it to get tornadoed onto my tower. So, okay, I don't know why I'm getting the Wi-Fi symbol. I have Wi-Fi. And he might go for a hog. Yeah, he does, so I was ready with the Tesla there. Gonna go archers as well, because he does have guard, so I can't afford to just Tesla alone. But that should defend perfectly, and the archers actually do stay alive, so they will counter push too. The question is going to be, what does he have in this deck? Is it going to be a rocket, or a fireball, or an earthquake, or a lightning? It could actually all be, it could realistically be all of those. He goes for a mirrored hog. I think my only play is Xbow on defense. And he actually is going to give us a small connection there. Nice. Gonna pressure with an Ice Spirit. I don't know if he has anything good in hand for this. Yeah, he literally didn't, so a really nice Ice Spirit as well. And this matchup looks like it might actually be one that's slightly affected by the Fireball nerf, because sometimes you have to Fireball back a Hog Rider if it's like on your tower. I don't even know if that'll fully counter anymore. Also, like if I want to Fireball an Executioner back or something, it won't, yeah, like it doesn't really get knocked back much at all, so kind of sucks there. But okay, 3M at the bridge. Hog 3M, interesting. I think I'm actually gonna sack the entire Musketeer on the right, or not sack the entire Musketeer, but gonna let it lock on instead of protecting against it. And he goes for a freeze. Okay. I think that should perfectly counter, though. I can't go for an Xbow because I know he has Executioner. I will now because I have enough Elixir for a Knight in front as well, so gonna go for that. He goes for a mini P.E.K.K.A. and log. I think he has enough for XD right now, unfortunately. And he does, but we do get a nice Ice Spirit off, hopefully, to freeze it as well. And perfect log, so that's going to be a really nice connection again. Gonna let this die now because I need enough Elixir to defend against the counter push. And looks like he's actually just going to give up, maybe? Or is he going to set up for like a huge hog 3M push in the left? Okay, looks like he gave up. So that's going to wrap it up, I guess, guys. That's going to be the final match. Pretty nice win there. Very interesting, weird mid-ladder deck. I guess I am pretty low on trophies. I'm probably around the mid-ladder range because I wanted to make a ladder push video last season, but I kind of just got really busy in real life. And also the meta was not fun at all to play in, so I decided not to really play. I still did make a 7k pushing video, though, I guess. But yeah, that's going to be a pretty nice win against a very weird hog deck. And I feel like Fireball is going to be noticeable. I'm actually not sure if Fireball will fully counter a hog. So at the start, I've had a lot of people ask me, if they go hog first play and you don't have Tesla on hand, how do you defend it? And before I used to say one possible thing is a Fireball, so you want to go Skeletons plus Fireball. I think that used to fully counter it. I don't know if that will fully counter it anymore, and it actually might not, unfortunately, because the Fireball knockback just isn't that great anymore. So that's kind of a big shame. Also against 3 Musketeers, I guess it doesn't really matter because you're really only getting tower damage on them. You're not really trying to go for a Fireball to knock them anywhere. So that's fine. But yeah, overall, some pretty nice wins today. Unfortunate choke against Icewood, but I was going to win, so as long as you guys don't choke like I did, don't play your knight too low, don't let it get tornadoed out of range, and you should be fine. Then you should be able to win against it. But yeah, it is also more of an even matchup since they do have the knight in there to get a very fast cycle. Definitely better for them than a Valk, for sure. But yeah, that's going to be the video, guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I did play some ladder today. I also talked about my balance change opinions, and going to be another pretty long video. I know a lot of people do like longer videos, and sometimes I don't make them because they take a long time, but I guess I was kind of feeling in the mood this time. But yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the balance changes. Personally, I'm pretty upset that 3.0 was nerfed once again, especially because the Fireball nerf was so noticeable, like, especially again against Lumberloon, against Archer Queen. I don't actually know if Fireball plus Skeletons or Ice Spirit fully counters a Queen anymore, because before it used to, because you would knock the Queen back right before they use the ability, but now it doesn't knock it back that far, so I'm not sure. If you have to play both Ice Spirit and Skeletons, it'll be kind of unfortunate, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, there are definitely some noticeable changes in matchups, but there are also some that stayed about the same, thankfully, like Log Bait, like Sparky decks, I guess. So it's not the end of the world, but hopefully we can get some love to our deck, because again, we have gotten nerfed so many times in a row. I feel like Tesla is definitely due for a buff, and Xbow is 100% due for a buff, but I don't think it's going to happen again because they don't really like it, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video, guys, so thank you so much for watching. Again, feel free to let me know your thoughts on the balance changes in the comments below. I'll probably be reading quite a few of the comments, at least towards the start of when I post this video. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.